Hello and welcome to the 2025 Hudson Valley Family Football League. It is the end of a very long and arduous fantasy football season, and I am your host here with the recap. First of all, a very big thanks to all the teams for participating this year. I know it's not easy to stick through a whole fantasy season when everything is crumbling from under you like an earthquake in Nepal. But thank you for sticking in there, folks. To kick off this recap, let's go right to our fantasy commissioner for a word on how the fantasy season has gone in its first year. You're one of the Hudson Valley Family Football League. We're here with the commissioner, and first season of the league, how much better could you have dreamed that this season would go?
Well, I think that I always envisioned myself in the championship. I envisioned myself winning everything. I pretty much put this league together with a bunch of people who had never played fantasy sports, so I could sort of, win the whole thing. But with all that being said, I think honestly it was really a great year. Everything was like super competitive, and I think it ended up being really great. We have like two of the best teams in the finals.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. How would you comment on the absolute travesty that was the wide receiver market this year?
I would say this was, even by fantasy football standards, one of the worst years ever for wide receiver injuries. It was a graveyard.
Absolutely. What do you think the average alcohol consumption per fantasy football manager was during the season?
Well, I think I myself probably contributed the vast majority of that. I think Brian definitely helped out. My dad definitely contributed quite a bit. I think even my mom got in on the action. Fantasy football takes a toll on both the brain and the liver.
Now, before we get into our seasonal recap, I want to give out some awards. For the show. We want to give out some awards to commemorate and absolutely obliterate some of the players out there that played for our teams. First of all, the MVP award sponsored by Samuel Adams. Who do we give it to? There's a lot of players that did a lot for a lot of teams this year, but the show is going to kick it to some of the teams around the league to ask what their opinion on the most valuable player is. All right, so going down the players, who would you say fantasy-wise is the most valuable player of any team this season?
That is a great question. I think it's tough. There's a lot of great players out there. I would say that teams that probably had Puka Nacua, Christian McCaffrey. If I had to pick one, I would probably say Puka Nacua.
Okay, so I don't know a lot of the players' names. I barely know my players' names, but it probably would have to be somebody on, I would say, Kathleen's team, the Rowan's Rushing Rebellion. Who's her quarterback? Do you know off the top of your head? Josh Allen?
Probably, I would say there's two really major ones. One is probably Christian McCaffrey, as he is the number one overall in every category. Like, it's not just the fact that he's a running back. He's number one.
That wouldn't recall me knowing players.
All right, that's whatever. That's good enough of an answer. Who's the most valuable fantasy player? Obama has definitely been pretty solid for the Kansas City Buckaroos. Now, taking all that into mind, the MVP award is going to go to Devon Achane of the Miami Marlins. Now, listen, I was thinking Christian McCaffrey all the way, but if you actually look at the game logs and see what this guy did from week to week as a fantasy player, he didn't have a single week under 10 points. That's a hit every week, guaranteed. This guy single-handedly carried fantasy seasons. And no, in total, he did not amass as many points as Christian McCaffrey. But damn it if he didn't have as productive as a year as you can have as a running back. Honorable mentions for the MVPs. We got Christian McCaffrey, obviously, runner-up. Matt Stafford, probably going to be an MVP, if not, at least in the conversations this season. Drake May had a really good breakout year. And then you got Puka Nacua, Jackson Smith, and Jigba at wide receivers. Very good seasons, but still had some down weeks. And then Josh Allen. It's Josh Allen. And to accompany that, the least valuable player award. Who is the biggest piece of crap this fantasy season? There's about 50 names you could think of. Probably 100 names you could think of. Playoff bust. People got hurt for half the year on a stub toe. Who do we give it to? Let's kick it back to the teams. Who is the biggest piece of crap on fantasy football this season?
Let me tell you about... I have two people. I'm going to say. One of them was on my team, one of them was not, okay? One of them, his name is Malik Neighbors. I hate that man.
I think if it's not Let's see. This is a tough one. Saquon Barkley, I know Brian can personally relate. That one hits probably too close to home. God, if I had to pick one, I would probably say it has to be Justin Jefferson.
The other one that I want to talk about, I think he left in week 1. He was not on my team. His name is Joe Burrow. Heard he's a very attractive man, which good for him. Heard he stubbed his toe, and that was it for him for the rest of his entire life. And he's also like the highest paid player in the whole league.
There's been a few disappointments, especially fantasy, as far as picks, but I'd say based on draft capital, probably Saquon. Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. Who's the biggest piece of crap on the planet in the fantasy playoffs? I mean, the fantasy season.
Dr. Doolittle.
Least valuable player. Who's the biggest piece of crap this year?
I don't know.
All right, that's great. That's great. We're really getting some good information here. With that all being said, time to give the award. The least valuable player for the 2025 fantasy season is Justin Jefferson. Listen, I looked at the game logs. I looked at what he did every single week, and you took this guy in the first round if you picked him. And I don't think he had a single week in the top 10. I mean, it was pretty bad for being one of the more elite receivers in the fantasy team. I don't know how you excuse this. I mean, we all know it's J.J. McCarthy, but my God, man. We're going to have to put Gorilla Glue on this guy's freaking catching gloves next year to make sure he can catch a pass. And then we'll have to, I don't know, clone J.J. McCarthy and send him to an intergalactic dimension to teach him how to throw a freaking football. Honorable mentions for the least valuable players. We got Dylan Gabriel, the representative of the Lollipop Guild himself. He can't throw a football. He can't make a pass. Get him out of the league. Justin Fields, he threw for negative net passing yards. How do you do that as a football player? Are you kidding me? I don't think that's been done since, I think even Nathan Peterman did better for the Buffalo Bills. How can you say that as a team you got less passing yards than my dead grandma? In fact, we can coin the 2025 season as the year that the Jets got less net passing yards than everyone's dead grandma. At the running back position, we have Breece Hall, also on the Jets. As a starting running back, you got to do better. Alvin Kamara, what the heck happened to him? I mean, what do we look? Start looking for retirement homes? Get some beeswax, put it on his gloves. I don't know. Can you blame the guy? They never really gave him the ball. Isaiah Pacheco, reboot the Arena Football League and send him there. He'll be fine. And then a wide receiver, we got Brian Thomas Jr. I don't think this is Brian Thomas Jr. I think this is an alien that wore Brian Thomas Jr.'s skin because this is not what he did last year. So if you picked him, you're pretty upset. It probably ruined your season to some degree. Now let's take some time to celebrate the rookies this season. The best rookie. We're not going to kick it back to the teams. I'm just going to give the award to Teteroa McMillan of the Carolina Panthers. Listen, if you look at from a just aggregate fantasy point perspective and you look at who scored the most, it's Ashton Genty. I'm not giving it to him. For him it was, very high ceiling, very low floor. Tet McMillan was more reliable. He had some decent weeks, a few good weeks. I think one or two great ones. You can't really be upset taking him as like a wide receiver 2. I think he was probably like a 4th or 5th round pick. Pretty good value. Honorable mentions in that category are going to be Trevion Henderson of the Patriots. Very slow start to the season, but oh my gosh, should he kick it up to a whole different notch in the second half. Get Ramondre out of the building. We don't want him. And lastly, Tyler Warren from the Colts, for a tight end season as a rookie, not really that bad. He had a lot of weeks where he was in the top rankings of tight ends. Early on in the year, he was helping your team a lot if you picked him. And then Jackson Dart. I know he didn't start the year, but he went on a tear for a good amount of time there as a fantasy quarterback. And now the worst rookie for the 2025 NFL season, not even any honorable mentions here. It's easily going to go to running back Caleb Johnson of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, this guy was getting taken in round 8 of the draft, and I don't think he started a single game. I don't think he had a single game where he got over 10 points. I mean, it's inexcusable. Why were people picking this guy? I don't know. Thank you, Jaylen Warren. Thank you, Kenneth Gainwell. And that brings it into the awards section of the show. So now let's go over every single team's season, recap how they all did, and then we'll get to the end where we reveal the fantasy championship winner of 2025. I can't wait. The Irish Princess team. Coming out of the draft, this team looked solid. 2 top-tier wide receivers in Drake London and CeeDee Lamb. What more could you ask for? Jalen Hurts at quarterback. This had to be a good year. Well, Sadly, that didn't turn out to be the case. Drake London and CeeDee Lamb had what is to be a blunder of a season. I mean, when they were healthy, they were good, but they were seldom healthy. They missed half the year. Tony Pollard was Tony Pollarding. Our other running back was Nick Chubb. And then don't even get me started about TJ Hawkin who? Who? Was he on the football field? Any way you look at it, I don't see how this team could have turned it around and actually had a positive record. I don't see it. Bailey's heroes. With the first pick in the draft, they took Jamar Chase. I mean, why would you not take Jamar Chase? Well, unfortunately for this team, a wild Jake Browning appears. It was an interesting strategy taking 4 tight ends in the draft. You know, George Kittle went down for a good chunk of the season, so they had to replace him. But I think in the long run, didn't really help them out. That lack of wideout depth to replace Jamar Chase's ill production under Jake Browning, what is he, like a soccer player they brought in? Or is he like the AAA pitcher for the Yankees? That wide receiver depth was the team's Achilles heel. And then don't even get me started about Breece Hall and Chase Brown. I mean, what? I don't think you could have a worse running back pairing duo unless you had maybe like Tony Pollard and Nick Chubb. They were okay, I guess, but you know, for being their team's lead running back with the talent they have, their production this year was just not good. It wasn't there. And to have that as your RB1 and RB2, I mean, yeah, of course you're going to have a disappointing season. It just comes down to the fact that this team got it together too little, too late. And by too late, I mean week 17. Bucky Cheese. Youth was the name of the game for this team. I mean, almost half of their drafted players were either rookies or sophomore players. It was a risky strategy that did not pay off. Managing this team was like adding tape to a bursting pipe just constantly. Joe Burrow goes down for most of the season. Okay, just pick up Matt Stafford off waiver wires. They'll have an MVP season for you. Bring your season right back. Wait, Brian Thomas Jr. forgot how to play football? Okay, all right, let's see. No, we got this. We have Stephon Diggs on our bench. We can plug him in. And then add Michael Wilson on the Cardinals. He'll channel the ghost of Larry Fitzgerald. It'll be okay. Oh, Cam Scottaboo's hurt too? Cooper Kupp forgot how to play football? Bucky Irving missed the whole year? The Book of Revelations has come to be? The seas are rising to swallow the earth? I would have given up 3 weeks into the year and checked myself into a mental health facility. Or just drank a bunch of this. If it wasn't for all this BS early in the season, I think this team might have won it all. Here so I won't get fined. Talk about headaches of a season. I mean, what the fuck was going on with this team? Let me just read off a list for you real quick. Calvin Ridley, Tyreek Hill, Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison Jr., Chris Godwin, Kayshon Boutte, Josh Downs, Ricky Pearsall, Matt Golden, Alec Pierce, Christian Watson. Is this the list of touchdown leaders? The list of everyone who had 1,000 yards this season? No. This is the list of every single wide receiver that was hurt on this team. That's like 10, 11 players just this year. We got to hear from this team as to what they were doing in their training camp, treating their players like this. Kick it to the field. Yeah, reports out of training camp says that you have been pushing your team to the absolute limits. Wives are begging for forgiveness against their husbands. Children are screaming that their fathers are on the IR. What has pushed you and your players so hard this year that half of your wide receivers, maybe even all of your wide receivers, have been on the injured reserve? What are you doing in training camp?
Right. So I think it's really simple. I think when you get paid millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars every single year, you should be able to bounce back just from like stubbing your toe, right? Or getting like a bad night's sleep. Yes. That should not put you on the injured reserve. Unfortunately, that's not how these players see it, and there's really not much I can do about that. Yes. But I do stand by pushing these players to their absolute limit, which is apparently, I guess having a bad drink at dinner and feeling a little hungover the next day means you can't play the rest of the season. So yeah, I do stand by my practices, but I don't think they will.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you just couldn't predict this. It's ridiculous. I don't know how you manage a team through this crap. I mean, it's got to be a new record. How do you treat your players like this? The first few weeks into the season, it looked like this team had a chance for the finals. I mean, they were doing really well. And then thank you, Malik Neighbors and Tyreek Hill, the same week, they get season-ending injuries to their legs. For the sake of all your players and their families and children, do not Draft any wide receivers next year, okay? Just take all running backs. And for the love of God, please get some liability insurance. You're gonna need it. It'll save you in the long run 100 times over. 'Tis the damn season. Going into the draft, this team had one strategy. Draft Travis Kelce, apparently. I don't really think it worked out one bit. Kick it to the field. First year of fantasy football. What do you have to say? What was your approach? Where did you find success this year?
The approach was not following it as much as you did, so that you just don't follow it and your team does well.
I hate you. You drafted, I'd say, Travis Kelce probably in like the third or fourth round. I think it was round 4. He has a connection to Taylor Swift. How did you and your knowledge of Taylor Swift utilize that pick?
I chose him solely because he was dating Taylor Swift at the time.
Yeah, of course you did. All right. George Pickens has been a very big surprise for the Cowboys. I don't think a lot of people had a lot of faith in him this season. How happy are you with your pick in George Pickens?
He's done pretty well.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I would definitely say he's done pretty well. He's been one of the best freaking wide receivers, and you're just taking it for granted. And, yeah, you picked him. Looking back to the draft, you selected Brock Purdy in a spot where a certain team was begging you and pleading you and asking with all of their life not to pick Brock Purdy. Why did you pick Brock Purdy? Why did you pick Brock Purdy?
Because the other team wanted him.
Yeah, okay. I don't think we need to hear any more about that. It seems that Travis used all of his energy satisfying his fiancée this year because his play on the field clearly did not match anything in his past. The dude's washed up. Well, I hope your life with Taylor is going to be worth it because I think this is the end of the road, bud. Listen, even with a stacked wide receiver lineup of Amon-Ra St. Brown, George Pickens, Devontae Adams, I don't think you could have a better 3 wide receivers on your team. It wasn't enough for this team to get past the semifinals. The lack of running back depth killed them. I mean, their RB1 was Ashton Genty. Do I got to say more? Not his fault he's on the Raiders, but then you lose James Conner and have to scramble to replace him? Kamani Vidal is not going to win you the finals, I'm sorry. But listen, for a first-time manager, not bad. Let's see what they draft in tight end next year. I'm basically asking, is he going to retire? Skiba the Naked Mallrats. A truly heartbreaking end to a Cinderella story of a season. And I'm not just gassing myself up. If you look at this team's draft, they might have drafted the worst team you possibly could have drafted this season. Mike Evans missed most of the season. Matthew Golden and Caleb Johnson did nothing. Jerry Jeudy forgot how to catch a frickin' football. Baker Mayfield, what happened to him? They took Saquon Barkley in the first round. I mean, he wasn't terrible, but my gosh, if you took him in the first round, second overall pick, you expect more. And then don't even get me started about A.J. Brown. I'm going to have PTSD for the rest of my life talking about A.J. Brown this season. 5 weeks into the season, this team was in last place and a goddamn disgrace. That's when they decided to trade. Jalen Warren, Cortland Sutton, and Daniel Jones were a few of the many acquisitions that turned this team's season a 180 right around. And what experts are referring to as the streak, they climbed from last place to a playoff spot in 6th in a matter of weeks. And not only that, they held it for the rest of the season and jumped up to the number 5th seed at one point. Then they made the playoffs only to get absolutely railed by Kyle Pitts in week 15, who had the best performance that a tight end has ever had in probably a decade or two, and got knocked out in the first round of the playoffs. Ever hear of the Oakland A's? This team was the football team version of the Oakland A's. You know, you start super disappointing, and then you go on this amazing comeback in the regular season to make the playoffs somehow and pull off magic, and then you get absolutely obliterated out of the first round of the playoffs, only for everyone to claim it was all smoke and mirrors. Absolute disgrace. Send this man back to Applebee's. Molly's Maulers. All right, Molly's Maulers in the championship round. What was your key to success this season? So many years managing a fantasy football team that definitely help with that.
Yeah, no, that definitely helps. But yeah, just keeping track of your players, keeping on top of who's injured and who's not injured, and getting the right players off the waiver wire, basically. You know, beating the other guy to the waiver wire.
What Jackson Smith and Jigba has done this year has been nothing but amazing. Are you completely impressed with what he's done? Or did you see it coming?
I think he's a great wide receiver. He was great last year. He's having an amazing season, which I guess is a progression up for him. Yeah. I'm happy. He's on my team, so I'm glad I have him.
Yeah, definitely. What was your biggest steal in the draft?
Cam Scatterbo. I wish he hadn't gotten injured. I think he would have probably been the rookie of the year had he not gotten injured.
Definitely a huge missed opportunity with the Giants. How this team only got the 4th seed, I will never understand. They averaged like 170 points every week for the first 4 weeks of the season. How do you do that? If you ever wanted proof of insider trading, here it is. There's going to be a common theme for the next 4 teams. Not much managing has to be done when every single one of your players gets freaking 20 points a week. But listen, this team with a solid draft, years of fantasy experience, and expert play of the waiver wire, they're in the finals for a reason. Best of luck in the finals, Molly's Maulers.
The Alaskan Bullworms.
Ugh. 2 words. Jonathan Taylor. 2025 fantasy season. What is your strategy this year?
Pay this.
Yeah, I mean, I think anyone can agree with that. I mean, the take on the draft order is unparalleled. What are your thoughts on the emergence of Jonathan Taylor? As you took him in like the 3rd or 4th round. I mean, he's been amazing for you. Yeah, I mean, I could definitely agree with that. When Jonathan Taylor went on a tear at the beginning of the season, this team dominated. And then after his bye week, when he forgot he had 2 legs and ran like Chester the Chicken, this team's record reflected that. Luckily, the amazing start to the season was enough to excuse the slump at the end of the year and keep this team in a playoff spot. Only for them to then lose the only 2 games they had in the playoffs and fall to 6th place. Thank you, Woody Marks. Better luck next year. The Hornets. If you want to talk about winning streaks, this team had a chunky one. I think it was like a 7 or 8 game win streak this team went on to just propel them into the playoffs. I mean, tell me the refs were in on it without telling me the refs were in on it. Trey McBride, Christian McCaffrey, Puka Nacua, what else needs to be said? Somebody get this man to Vegas because he struck gold in the draft. I mean, how do you end up with the best 3 fantasy players in their respective positions? It's insane. And during the year where everybody's ACLs were exploding like tank canister shells, this team was fully healthy. How did they do it? Somebody, please, get me on these herbal supplements. I could use them. Honestly, my good friend, good luck in the fantasy playoffs, but I don't think you really need luck. Rowan's rushing. Imagine a world where everything parts like the Red Sea and just you can do no wrong. That was this team's fantasy season. You get the big promotion, you win the lottery. They could have picked Nathan Peterman off of the waiver wires and he would have came back from retirement, thrown for like 300 yards a week, 4 touchdowns. I genuinely don't know how you can get this much production week to week. They even had foresight to get Rico Dowdle when Chuba Hubbard went down and he got like 30 points a week when he was starting. How this team is not in the finals is beyond me. Truly heartbreaking to see. And now that we've gone through all of the teams' 2025 seasons, we're going to kick it back to the field to see who is the champion of the finals of the 2025 Hudson Valley Family Football League.
Here we are reporting live from the most standard-looking bathroom in the state of New York to announce the winner of the 2025 Hudson Valley Family Football League. It was a very competitive matchup, the championships. By the way, sponsored by Taco Bell. This announcement is sponsored by Taco Bell, my latest Taco Bell binge. The Hornets versus Molly's Maulers. Very competitive, up down to the wire, where one team pulled away from the other. Congratulations to Molly's Maulers for winning the 2025 fantasy football season for the Hudson Valley Family Football League. Back to the studio. Congrats, Molly's Maulers.
Thank you all for playing. Thank you all for watching the recap video. I'm going to go consume all of this and hopefully just go into a coma until the next fantasy season where I hopefully make the finals and hopefully everything goes fine and everybody doesn't just... Oh, wait, we're getting a phone call. Hang on. This just in. Breaking news. Marvin Harrison Jr. has gotten drunk and fell down a flight of stairs. He's going to miss the rest of the season and possibly the preseason of next year. We got you right up with the breaking news here. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you next year. Bye, everybody.